Welcome to my Autism Demystification Project. This is a chance for me to share information about autism spectrum disorder. Over the next several minutes, I am going to be providing you with different videos and different ideas on helping students and just knowledge about autism spectrum disorder. First of all, I will start off with a 10-question pre-assessment just for you to see where you're at prior to hearing any information. After going through the little bit of information in a couple of videos, I will do a 10-question post-assessment, which again is multiple choice and true and false. The key thing here is that I'm trying to help provide you with information about autism spectrum disorder, or better known as ASD. So let's get started on our pre-assessment. So question number 1. What is autism? A. Autism affects the way a child sees and interacts with the rest of the world. B. Autism is a developmental disorder which usually begins before 3 years of age and is a lifelong disability. C. Autism affects the functioning of the brain, impacting social interaction and communication skills. D. All of the above. Question number 2. People with autism have a normal lifespan. True or false? Question 3. Presently, there is a known single cause for autism. True or false? Question number 4. Autism is 4 to 5 times more prevalent in females than in males. True or false? Question number 5. Common characteristics of autism include, please make sure you mark all that it includes, A. Difficulty relating with people. B. Laughing for no reason. C. Repetitive behavior. D. Not very intelligent. E. Selective hearing and may act as deaf. F. Extremely sensitive, such as sound, touch, taste, and sight. Question number 6. Genetics may be a factor of causing autism. True or false? Question 7. Children with autism frequently prefer to keep a strict order around themselves. True or false? Question number 8. There's no straightforward test to determine whether or not a child has autism. True or false? Question number 9. People with Asperger's syndrome have A. Below average intelligence. B. At least average intelligence. C. Exceptionally high intelligence. And last question, number 10. Autism affects all the areas except A. Social interaction. B. Growth. C. Nonverbal communication. D. Verbal communication. Thank you for doing the pre-assessment. So here we go. What I'm going to first of all show you is a video that provides you a little bit of sense of where a student might be coming from. All right, looking at that video, it provides us an overview of really what students can be going through. So let's learn a little bit more about autism spectrum disorder. First of all, ASAD is a developmental disability that can cause significant social, communication, and behavior challenges. There's often nothing about how people with ASD look that sets them apart from other people. But people with ASD may communicate, interact, behave, and learn in ways that are different from most other people. The learning and thinking and problem-solving abilities of people with ASD can range from gifted to severely challenged. Some people with ASD need a lot of help in their daily lives. Others need less. That video gave us an idea of just somebody that it just had an overload of what was going on. We have heard before about different ways of looking at autism spectrum conditions. The rainbow is just a way of looking at it through the abilities of the IQ aspect. Your classically severe autism all the way down to your high-functioning autism or your Asperger's or your PDD, which we will learn more about. But just giving you a little bit more about the rainbow. The rainbow is an object of beauty that some people think, something to be seen and appreciated. There's nothing wrong with the rainbow. The rainbow metaphor is often expressed in the thoughts, beliefs, and actions of those in the autism community. The spectrum of colors in a rainbow also represent the wide range of abilities of people with autism. To appreciate autism metaphors, community influence, a definition of autism is necessary. Autism is a pervasive developmental disorder typically characterized by poor social interaction. This may include lack of eye contact, social exchange, both verbal or nonverbal. Language delays. Expressive language is equally important as receptive language. Repetitive phrases, an inability to initiate dialogue or support it. And obsessive behavior. This can include inflexibility, repetitive physical movements, and fixation on objects. ASAD has 5 types that they basically have spread it across. They used to put it as the spectrum of just autism, and they're all ranged in theirs. Now it's as a spectrum disorder, which is a big continuum that has these 5 branches. The first one is your autistic disorder or your classic autism. Among all the various types of autism, classic autism is perhaps the broadest and most predominant form of autism. In technical terms, anyone showing autistic tendencies that satisfy the guidelines laid out by DSM-5, autism spectrum disorder, is termed autistic. The effects of autism is such people may range from mild to very severe. Research has shown that the brain of autistic children has a far number of electric impulses than any other normal brain of similar age. Next one is your Asperger's disorder. These classify people who fall under the high-functioning autism spectrum. They are often intelligent and excel in academic and work life. However, their impairment lies in the lack of social skills, while they develop communication and language skills in the same way as any other developing child. Their deficits become more obvious with age as they struggle to keep up with the expectations of their family and extended community circles. The third one is your childhood disintegrative disorder, or better known as CDD, also known as Heller syndrome, which is an interesting one. Typically affecting toddlers and preschoolers. In this case, the child grows normally until about the age of 2, and then shows a sudden drop in social, communication, and behavioral disorders. CDD is often overlooked initially by the parents, as they tend to attribute this sudden impairment as a transient or temporary phase for their child and would expect it to pass away. The fourth one is your Rett's syndrome. Rett's syndrome occurs only in girls. The only form of autism spectrum disorder can be diagnosed and medically confirmed. Girls with Rett's syndrome suffer from significant communication impairment. Also, one of the common symptoms of Rett syndrome is the girl's limited ability to use their hands for regular activity. Typically, this syndrome deteriorates with the girl's age, thus requires more support and time. And the last one, your pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, such as your PDD. Specified is used to classify people who do not fit into any particular category of autism. They meet some of the criteria for a classic autism, but not necessarily all of them. Their impairments could range from mild to severely requiring supporting range from anywhere between a level 1 to a level 2. Functioning level is usually moderate to high, barring exceptions where they overlap with other disorder syndromes. These 5 types give you the whole large gamut of it, but we'll talk a little bit more about each of these as we go on. Looking at the Venn diagram provides a visual of somehow these types overlap. If you take notice, it is important to notice that not everyone with ASD have challenges in social, communication, and behavior. And if you take notice, the PDD, it's a little bit of each. It doesn't mean they have to overlap. Asperger's fits in here. Your autism fits in where all 3 of them overlap. So it's very important. If you take notice, the other 2 are not mentioned in this Venn diagram because they have little pieces of everything. Autism spectrum disorder has different dimensions. We're going to look at a couple of them. The social dimension of ASAD is the first one we're going to look at. At one of the spectrum of difficulties in relating to people, especially peers, is the aloft child, who actively avoids social interactions. The next child described is a passive one, who can tolerate social interaction with encouragement and can initiate social contact, but primarily to achieve access to something he or she wants. The next stage of this continuum is the active but odd child, who actively wants to interact with others, although usually adults, but despite a motivation to socialize, is odd due to the lack of social understanding and range of social abilities. And the last piece is at the upper end of the social continuum is a child who wants friends but appears to have a significant delay in social maturity. Has conspicuous problems with theory of mind abilities and may interact more as a miniature adult with a child. So you can tell the social dimensions, there's a large continuum. That's why it's called the spectrum. Another part of the autism spectrum is the communication dimensions. So looking at this, the severest expression of a communication spectrum represents the silent child, the child that has the vocabulary of sound but not words. This child may have a greater comprehension of language and then expression, but does not easily replace the lack of speech with the development of a natural gesture language. This is a description of the classic silent and aloft child. The next area on the continuum is when speech can occur, but often requires an external prompt. For example, immediate echoing the utterance of someone, seeing an object and being able to say the name of the object, or using sentences borrowed from a favorite TV program. The words may be appropriate for the context, but they are verbatim copies, often said in the voice of the original utterance. The next area in the child can initiate original speech has significant problems with the pragmatic aspects of language, often making a literal interpretation of someone's comments. There might be challenges with auditory discrimination and auditory processing for this child. The upper end of the continuum is the child that has remarkable verbal fluencies but a tendency to make limited eye contact and an inability to recognize the person's lack of interest or boredom. This describes a child that has the Asperger's disorder. The third dimension is the cognitive dimension. This starts with a child who has profound learning problems and who plays may be within the very early and infantile stages of development. This child is interested in the sensory rather than the functional of the symbolic qualities of an object. The child explores the world of touch and taste and is fascinated by perspectives of order and arranging items in lines and examining objects from unusual angles. The next area, the child has relatively advanced skills in activities such as assembly and putting jigsaw puzzles together. The child is fascinated by shapes and functional use of objects. The child may display natural engineering skills with construction blocks or provide drawings with a photographic realism. Although autism is considered a neurodevelopmental disorder, not all aspects of the brain functioning are affected. Approximately 10% of children with autism development are Samian characteristics. This can be from the abilities of mathematics, music, drawing, and mechanisms.